Up today. Just so you know, we're going to go this one, and then we're going to go right into the next lesson the next week, which is, we're going to, treasuring who God treasures. No, we're not doing the treasuring who God treasures next week, okay? So skip that one, go to the next one, go to Psalm 25, and we'll be back on schedule for the snow day we missed. Okay, so we're basically not doing the Sanctity of Human Life Sunday lesson, and we're just staying on course with this normal schedule on focus on worship. Okay, so that didn't make any sense. Just do the next lesson, inspiration for worship. So, all right. Well, we are all drawn to worship, whether we realize it or not. We are drawn to worship, and. If you don't believe me, then obviously you didn't have your TVs on yesterday, right? But unfortunately, sports teams are not worthy of our worship. The Chiefs are close, the Saints are not. But they're not. But you can see it. People are drawn to worship. But if we're not focusing on the God that's revealed in Scripture, then we're worshiping the wrong things. Not that those things are inherently bad, because the Chiefs are not bad, they're good. But they don't deserve our worship. Only God does. And so that's what we're going to be looking at over the next several weeks. We're going to be looking at worship and what it means to worship and who we worship and all those types of things. So today we're going to be talking about the focus of our worship. But there's a whole lot in this lesson that I absolutely love, and so I'm going to try to get to the highlights of it as best we can. Isaiah is a really great book. It's a really interesting book. Probably the most famous part of Isaiah is the call of Isaiah in Isaiah chapter 6, where Isaiah gets that vision, right, of God and high and lifted up, and we get that whole thing where he's like, I'm done, right? And the angel comes, puts coal on his mouth, and then God says, who will go? And Isaiah says, I'll go, right? And that's usually where our sermon stops, right? But the rest of that chapter is not real great. It's like, here's your message. And he's like, oh, joy. There's no joy in it. It's a message of judgment. And it's a really hard thing that he is called to do. And the message that he's given is this message of judgment toward a wayward people. And that is the essence of the first 39 chapters of the book of Isaiah. It's judgment on Israel. It's judgment on Jerusalem. And then where we're at today in Isaiah chapter 40, it shifts. And the theme shifts in Isaiah chapter 40 to a call to comfort, which is really unusual because it's the only time in the Old Testament that any prophet is ever called to go and speak comfort to people. So he's had all this judgment, and then in Isaiah 40 it shifts, comfort. And even in the comfort, though, it's like, oh boy, I want to be comforted this way all the time. But nevertheless, it's a reminder for them that God is going to bring them comfort. And oftentimes we get comfort confused with consoling someone, right? Well, oftentimes when we think we want to comfort somebody, we think console. But when you're consoling somebody, you're just kind of empathizing with them. But whenever God says he's bringing comfort, he's not talking about just coming and saying, oh, I'm sorry you feel this way. Oh, I'm sorry you're going through this. When God says, I'm going to bring you comfort, he is talking about a divine action that he is going to take on your behalf to relieve your hardship, or to be at work in you during your hardship. And the people of Israel, at this point in Isaiah 40, are in exile. They are under hardship, and God is promising them that better days are to come. And so, in the beginning of chapter 40, well, we're going to come back to the beginning of chapter 40 in a minute, maybe. But beginning in about verse 12, Isaiah begins to ask a bunch of questions about God. And I'm just going to read it real quick before we get into our passage. It says, "Who has measured the waters in the hollows of his hand, and marked out the heavens by the span, and calculated the dust of the earth by the measure, and weighed the mountains in a balance, and in the hills a pair of scales? Who has directed the Spirit of the Lord? Who is his counselor and has informed him? With whom did he consult, and who gave him understanding? Who taught him in the path of justice, and taught him knowledge, and informed him of the way of understanding? Behold, the nations are like a drop from a bucket, and are regarded as a speck of dust on the scales. Behold, he lifts up islands like fine dust. Even Lebanon is not enough to burn, nor is beast enough for a burnt offering. All the nations are as nothing before him. They are regarded by him as less than nothing and meaningless. To whom will you liken to our God? Or what will you liken, or what likeness will you compare with him? For as the idol, a craftsman casts it, a goldsmith plates it with gold, and a silversmith fashions chains of silver. He who is too impoverished for such an offering selects a tree that cannot rot. He seeks out for himself a skillful craftsman to prepare an idol that will not totter." And then this is where we're going to pick up our lesson here this morning. So we get this powerful imagery here of God as you know, that he can hold all the waters of the earth in his hand, right? All the dust, it's nothing in his measuring basket, if you will. And so he's saying that absolutely nothing can be compared to him. He is the all-powerful creator. He is the sustainer of all life. And so that's where we're going to pick up. Before we do that, I got to stop. I got to give you this question. Have you ever had a time in your life where you were puzzled at what was going on around you? Have you ever had a time in your life when you thought God had forgotten you? This is where Israel is. This is where the people are in this book right now, at this point in time. And it's interesting that in this, he's telling Isaiah, comfort them. But in this call to comfort, in this call that I want to comfort you, it's actually a call to worship. You need comfort? You know where you need to go? You need to go to worship. Comfort, lots of times, will come to us in worship. And God is calling his people. What he's about to do, what he's begun to do, is he's calling them back to himself through worship. Turn their focus, turn their attention to him, and worship him. And this is what he says in chapter 40, verses 21 through 24. Somebody read that for me.
Do you not know? Have you not heard? Has it not been declared to you from the beginning? Have you not considered the foundations of the earth? God is enthroned above the circle of the earth. Its inhabitants are like grasshoppers. He stretches out the heavens like thin cloth and spreads them out like a tent to live in. He reduces princes to nothing and makes judges of the earth like a wasteland. They are barely planted, barely sown. Their stem hardly takes root in the ground when he blows on them, and they wither. And a whirlwind carries them away like stubble.
All right, so throughout this chapter, the prophet keeps asking these series of questions, right? What's the point? Why is he asking all these questions?
It makes you realize what's actually happening. You know,
Okay. Yeah.
Who are you to tell me what's true?
Okay, yeah, there's going to be some of that come. Oh, yeah, there's some of that coming, sister.
Yeah.
Absolutely, right? So, but yeah, he's raising these questions to challenge their thinking. He's trying to break them out of this idea of, well, God's forgotten us. Why isn't God doing anything? What is going on around us? And he's trying to challenge their thinking. He's raising these questions to challenge their thinking and to remind them of these great truths about God. And it's interesting that this is what I love the way he starts out. Do you not know? Have you not heard? Has it not been declared to you from the beginning? You notice this progression that's taking place here? He's like, you know because you heard. You heard because you were told, and you understand. And you need to come back to that understanding. Basically, what he's saying here is, you are culpable. You are without excuse. Because from the very beginning, you know one of the core things about Israel's belief system about Judaism was? That there is one God. Right? The Lord is one. And there is only one. And He created all things. And that's what this whole little passage here and it's going to build into. They are without excuse. They were more than familiar with the great concept of the Lord as the Creator God. He is cast above the encirclement of the earth. All of it. It's like dust. It's like He can hold all the waters in His hands. And it doesn't fill them up. Right? And so they're without excuse. It had always been a big part, a big declaration of their faith as a people of God. And so what he's doing, he's saying, come back to your roots. Come back to what you know. And he's basically declaring that He can bring them release. He can bring them sustenance. He can bring them strength, and all these things that we're gonna get into here in a minute. And so this is what he's calling them to, and we need to move quick. So I'm going to go ahead and go. Let's go ahead and so we're accountable for the things that we know about the truth of God and the things of God. And nothing in creation is superior to the Lord, for He is creator above it all. Okay? So we worship the one who is the creator and the sustainer, and we're going to build on that creation part right here. Somebody read verses 25 through 28.
To whom will you compare me, and who is my equal? Asked the Holy One. Look up and see. Who created these? He brings out the stars by number. He calls them all by name. Because of His great power and strength, not one of them is missing. Jacob, why do you say to it, and Israel, why do you assert, my way is hidden from the Lord, and my claim is ignored by my God? Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is everlasting God, the creator of the whole earth. He never becomes faint or weary. There is no limit to His understanding.
Okay, how does the Bible start? In the beginning, what?
God created.
In the beginning, God created. In the beginning, God created. Immediately. And remember now, this isn't a people that didn't know this. This isn't a people that didn't have this book. Okay? They've got this. Immediately the Lord is set apart from everything else. All other deities, not that there are any. The Bible begins with the assertion that He is the origin of all life and all life is in Him. Okay? Therefore, what He made, He owns. What He owns, He is entitled to. Right? If you own something, if you made it, and if you own it, you're entitled to it, right? And you're entitled to use it however you want. So He's entitled to use it for His purpose and His glory. Guys, He is sovereign God. He is creator. And it's all His. Okay? And to refuse Him that right is what happened in the garden. To refuse Him that right is rebellion. And it is sin. So with that background in mind, the prophet confronted the people with a question. To whom will you compare me? Who's my equal? That's a simple question, right? That's a simple answer. The implied answer is nothing. No one. Nothing compares to God. And then I love where he goes from there. Look up and see. Isn't it interesting what they apparently are seeing when they look up? What do they see when they look up?
Stars.
They see stars. It's interesting to me that they see stars. Because how are these people feeling, by the way, right now? They're depressed. Forgotten. They're downcast. They're all these types of things. You ever notice those feelings in you are worse at night than they are during the day? You ever notice that?
Is that sundowners?
What's that?
Sundowners.
Sundowners?
So it's interesting to me that even in this, almost as if he's speaking to them at night, he says, look up to the heavens, and what do you see? And we know that they're talking about stars because he says the stars, right? And that leads me to another little quick point. Don't trust your feelings. Man, you got to stop. You can't just go, well, this is how I feel. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Because you can't trust them. Don't tell me what you feel. It's okay to tell me what you feel, but tell me what you know. What do you know? What do you know to be true? And that's one of the things that God, through the prophet, is trying to get the people to do. Stop telling me how you feel. Tell me what you know. Tell me what you know to be true. Okay? And so, I love this, though. He says, look up and see. Who created all these? Right? And he's talking about the stars. And they don't just happen. Right? What's it say? What's it say? He brings them out. They didn't just happen. They just don't show up every night. He brings them out. Right? And he's the cause of it. And we can look up at the sky and we look up at the stars, and I'm not an astrology or person or whatever, but one of the other thing that's happening here is in that culture, and it still happens today, people worship that stuff. They were deities, right? And he's about to bring them down, right? He's about, and if you don't think people still worship that stuff, then just you ain't reading your horoscope. And if you ain't reading your horoscope, good for you. You know what I mean? But people worship that stuff. People think there's meaning in all that stuff. I'm not an astrologer, but I can pick out the Big Dipper. You know what I mean? Yeah. Ask me to find a Little Dipper. I can't tell you where it's at. I have no idea, but I can find that one. But that's about it. But it's interesting that I can hardly distinguish one from another, but yet God knows them all by name. And it's not just that he named them, right? It's not just that, oh, well, here's a star, so let me give it that name. You know, it's like those deals you can get on, you can go and somebody will pay to put a name on a star. That is the dumbest thing you've ever heard. You're going to pay somebody to say that star's for you? Sorry, somebody else owns that sucker already. And you can't get it through this $40 plan. I don't know. Anyway. But he calls all of them by name. And this is really cool because it's not just that he names them. The picture here, the imagery here is that he assigns them by name. In other words, he calls them out by name and they all come out and line up at his call. It's like they're soldiers on a parade ground. And they all report for duty when he calls their name. And there ain't nobody missing. Because he's over all of them. The stars are just soldiers on a parade ground that he calls out by name. And he says, Jim. And Jim goes, here, sir. And so all these things that all those other people and all those other cultures are worshiping, he's bringing them down and going, no. They're all beneath God. And so all these things, not one of them is missing. And so he takes all these things that people think are deities and he absolutely just strips them of all their deity. He reduces them to the rank of private in the Lord's army. And he says all these things show up at his call. When he calls them by name, they show up and they say, yes, sir, here to report for duty. What a powerful and authoritative God he is. And so he uses this word created. I created them. It's interesting that word created, bara, is the same word that's used in Genesis, but it's used twice as many times in Isaiah that as it is used in Genesis. It's a big theme in this book and in Isaiah. And it's not just, and every time it's used, God is the one that's acting. It's an activity that God alone performs, okay? And so, and if only God created, and he did, then what? Then he had to be before all things. And then all things are subservient to him. And absolutely, therefore, he is holy, he is distinct, he is separated, he is unique, and he is without equal. Got it? What's he trying to do? He's trying to call them back to himself. He's saying, get your eyes off your circumstances and look to me. And now he's going to do something interesting. Now he's going to take on their complaints. Anybody got any complaints today? You got any complaints with God today?
Just praise.
Just praise? We do. But sometimes do we have complaints? Yeah, sometimes we have complaints. Israel's got some complaints. Israel, Judah. I'm just going to call him Israel because he's really talking to both of them. Because he's going to say Jacob and Israel. He's talking about both kingdoms here. So, what are their complaints? Verse 27, guys. What are their complaints?
God has forgotten them.
And so, yeah, God has forgotten them. They're saying that my way is hidden. You've forgotten all about us. We're out here. We're in Babylon. We're scattered. Jerusalem's been destroyed. We're forgotten.
And ignored.
And ignored. Yes, we're forgotten and we're ignored. They think that this rough course of life that they are enduring has somehow, in some manner, been concealed from God. That he must not be seeing what is happening to them. You ever feel like that? Whatever's going on in my life, man, God, I don't know, God not watching? Does he not know? Does he sleep on the job? So, they feel forgotten. And then the other part is interesting. And my claim is ignored by my God. That word claim, it means, it's the word mispat. It means justice. Okay? It's where we get our word justice from. My justice is ignored. My justice isn't being seen. And so really what they're doing is they're complaining and they're saying, my rights have been violated. And this is a problem. And this is a problem for us as Americans. Okay? What are your rights as a citizen of the United States of America?
Constitution and Bill of Rights.
Yep.
Okay? In the Constitution, we have a Bill of Rights that give us what rights?
Free speech.
Freedom of speech.
Freedom of religion.
Freedom of religion.
Freedom to assemble.
Freedom of keeping bear arms.
Mm-hmm. The right to a jury of your peers, right?
Really, the Bill of Rights is the Bill of Government's not rights. That's what it
It's
is.
a limit. Yeah, absolutely.
This is what the government can't
For
do
sure,
to you.
for sure. Okay, so those are your rights. But do we think those are all of our rights as Americans today?
No.
Do we think that is all of our rights? No. We've added a whole other list of other things that we think we're entitled to. Right? We have a whole other thing of other things that we think we are due. Okay? And so their complaint is that their right or their privilege as the people of God had been passed over. It had been determined invalid, obsolete, or disregarded. Okay? As the people of God, they're charging God and saying our rights are being ignored. Okay? And here's where we get hung up. Because as Americans especially, we think we've got rights. What are your rights as a citizen of the kingdom of God?
Whatever God gives you
Whatever God gives you
is rights.
is right. Okay? Do we think we have rights as citizens of the kingdom?
When we come to Christ, we have surrendered our rights.
Absolutely.
Or that's the way it's supposed to be.
Absolutely. You guys, John is right. You have none. You have no rights. Now that, don't get confused. There are a lot of benefits. Okay? There are a lot of privileges that are yours. They are yours. But they are that. They are benefits and they are privileges. They are not rights. You are not entitled to anything. The truth of the matter, the truth of the matter is that the Bill of Rights, it not only limits the government, but it also keeps us equal. Right? It says, you have the same right as I have. Okay? We both have equality. Okay? That we're equal in the eyes of government and all that type of thing. But in this situation, guess what? There is no equality between us and God. We are always the lesser party. Right? Everything that we get through that covenant agreement, through that covenant relationship with God, is ours not because we deserve it. It's all grace, right? So even as we come to God, that's all at His initiative, right? He draws us. He brings us to Himself. We didn't just, let me go do this, right? We're drawn to it. He brings us into it. And so, and we kind of get caught up in that. We think, well, I deserve better. Really? What do you deserve? I hate to tell you what I deserve. I don't want what I deserve. I want benefits. I want grace. I want privileges. I don't want what I deserve. I have no rights before God. And so for us sometimes to get this mindset that, well, somehow God's forgotten me, somehow I'm not getting what I'm due, it's a very dangerous place to go. Okay? And part of this is, in this situation, why are they in exile?
Because they disobeyed God.
Because they're getting what they deserve. It's because of their own choices that they're in this situation. God tried to stop them. God tried to call them back. God sent them prophet after prophet after prophet saying, come back to me, come back to me, come back to me. Right? And so all this is happening. So to say that He's not just is just not right. It's just not part of what's happening is they're getting what they've asked for all along, and now they're blaming God for it. Okay, so
I don't know about what they asked for, but what they worked for.
yeah, it's what they earned.
Yeah.
And even in that, they're going to get grace. They're going to get grace through it all. Okay. All right. Well, we got to move on. So this is their complaint. They've been forgotten. Their rights have been violated. Guys, God doesn't forget, and you don't have any rights. Okay? He is a creator. He is a creator God. You are His. You gave up your rights when you came to Jesus. Okay? And you said, I'm going to exchange all of that. I'm going to exchange all of self for all these privileges and benefits I get as a child of God. Okay? All right? So, but now He's going to hold them accountable. And He says, do you not know? Have you not heard? And so this is where He's drawing them back in again. He goes, you know better. You know better. And He's going to remind them of 4 attributes about God that should encourage them in times of their doubt, to help them with their doubt. Because that's really what's going on here. They're doubting God. They're doubting Him. And He's trying to give them hope and for the present and for the future. And there's some things that they should have already known. There are things that they've already heard. And basically Isaiah is telling them, Your concept of God is way too small. So let me blow that up for you. Okay? And what is the first thing that he says to them? There in verse, where are we at?
The Lord is the everlasting God.
Yeah. The Lord is the everlasting God. And he comes back to that idea of creator again. He is the everlasting God, the creator of the whole earth, right? And so basically what he's saying is, he is, always has been, and always will be, right? And the second thing is that he is limitless in effect, okay? He'd already established that the Lord was creator, and basically he's saying that there is no place that exists that is beyond him and his touch. He is omnipresent. He is everywhere, right? And third, he is limitless in power. He never becomes faint. He never becomes weary, right? His might and ability, his strength do not fade from overuse. He is not fatigued, right? No matter how great the challenge, he can overcome it. He is omnipotent. He is all-powerful. And finally, he is limitless in knowledge. There is no limit to his understanding. You cannot possibly, in your finite little brain, I cannot possibly, in my finite little brain with this other little thing that's growing in it, possibly comprehend what's going on in God. Right? God is omniscient. He is all-knowing. He acts in ways that are beyond our ability to comprehend. He is so mighty. So mighty is he, right?
His will be done.
His will be done. And here's the thing that's happening too, okay? I just got to bring you back. Damn, we're running out of time. But I'm going to bring you back to this real quick. His designs for Israel far outweigh the possibilities that they can imagine in that moment. Is he done with them?
No.
No, he is absolutely not done with them. Go back and read the first few verses of chapter 40. What does the first few verses of chapter 40 say? Okay? So we start off, "Comfort, O comfort my people, says your God. Speak kindly to Jerusalem and call out to her that her warfare has ended, her iniquity has been removed, and that she has received the Lord's hand double for all of her sins." And then what happens in verse 3?
Voice of one.
A voice calling in the wilderness. What's God's plan?
Messiah is coming.
A Messiah is coming. And a forerunner's coming before him. Right? Make straight the paths of God. God is coming. Right? I love that. In the midst of all this, they say, we can't see you, we don't know, you've forgotten all about us. And God says, I ain't forgotten nothing. I ain't even close to being done with you yet. And let me just say, in your life today, you may feel like God's forgotten. God doesn't know. God, my rights are being violated. You do not know. You cannot comprehend in your finite little pea brain what God's got going on for you. And he ain't done. He ain't done. So trust him. Trust in what he's doing. Trust in what he's and what's going on. Because he sees it all, and you just see a speck. Sometimes we can't even see beyond our own little circumstances in the moment. Right? He's got it. He's got you, and there's more going on than you know. Well, let's get to the last part real quick. We got about 3 minutes. Somebody read verses 29 through 31.
He gives strength to the faint and strengthens the powerless. Youths may become faint and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who trust in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not become weary. They will walk and not faint.
Okay, so these are some of the most well-known verses in Isaiah, right? Especially verse 31. And they accomplish the assignment that God has given the prophet in verse 1. That is to comfort God's people during their times of despair. And the prophet is assuring them that he has not forgotten them, but that he comes to extend grace, mercy, strength, and bring them victory. According to verse 29, I'm just going to ask you 3 questions to wrap this up. What is one thing that God does with his power?
Strengthens the weak.
He gives it.
He gives power to the.
He shares it. All that power that he just talked about, all that power that was just laid out for us in all those preceding verses through chapter 40, they're Selahs. And see, here's the great thing about this too, Selah. He doesn't just strengthen you. He just doesn't give you more of your strength. He takes your strength away and he says, I'm going to give you my strength. This is not an enhancement of your ability. This is a gift of his ability. This is a gift of divine strength. Right? Because trust us, whenever I don't need more of mine. Mine usually is what got me in trouble in the first place. Right? My hands have been all beat up the last few weeks because had a band belt, serpentine belt, come apart on my truck on the way home one day. So I had to change that thing. And it's cold, and my son-in-law said, you should have brought it to the shop and warmed it up. So, man, I was just glad I got it home. But my hands were banged up because my strength was not the kind I needed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's a stretch, but I needed his strength. And it's a beautiful picture here. He gives strength to the faint, and he strengthens the powerless. And it's not just a gift of more of yours, it's an exchange of your strength for his strength. Okay? Because what usually comes to people that live by their own strength?
Perish.
Yeah. It gets us in trouble. Right? It gets us in trouble. And what is the... So if we get this opportunity, if we've been given this chance to exchange our strength for his strength, what is the key to that exchange taking place? How does that exchange take place? What's it say? How do you get it?
You wait on the Lord.
Trust in the Lord.
Okay? Yep. So what's it say? You wait on the Lord. What's it say? What else does it say though?
Trust in the Lord.
But those who trust in the Lord, some of them say wait, right? Some translations say wait, but those who wait on the Lord.
Yeah.
But those who wait on the Lord, those who trust in the Lord, will renew their strength. That Hebrew word for trust or wait is something being twisted together. It's like rope. Okay? And so to trust in the Lord is not wishful thinking. To trust in the Lord is to be so twisted or bound together with him that he becomes our lifeline. Right? You've been there.
Yeah.
In recent days, right?
Yeah.
He's your lifeline. You're so bound up in him that he is your lifeline. And it's not that you're just holding on to a rope. You are the trust. It is the rope. You and him are the rope. You're twisted up together. You couldn't possibly pull it apart. You couldn't possibly separate it because that's how wrapped up you are in each other. That's how wrapped up he is in you, and you in turn, as you wait on him and as you trust in him, you wrap yourself up in him.
Believe in it.
Absolutely. And that's the key, Rick. It's not wishful thinking. It's not a passive thing. It's not just standing by and hoping something good will happen. It's actively and eagerly expecting something to happen. It's faith. Faith is not hoping. Faith is believing it to be so when it's not so in order for it to be so because it is so. Right? It's not just, well, maybe, hopefully, someday it'll get better. No, it's going to get better. I believe it because he can do it and I believe it. Those who hope in the Lord, the act of trusting, it is a constant act of hope and anticipation. Get that? Do you believe God has good things in store?
Yes.
In the midst of your trial, in the midst of your adversity, do you believe that God has good plans for you? Do you believe that a voice is crying out in the wilderness is coming in your future? Do you believe that Jesus is coming back to make all things right? And then guess what? Maybe you will have rights that day. Maybe you'll have rights. Because at that point you'll be heirs and co-heirs and you'll have all the inheritances coming to you. I don't know, maybe some of those things are going
Then
to
we
change.
won't care.
And you ain't going to care anyway. Because you're not going to have any pride, you're not going to have any jealousy, you're not going to have any envy. All that sin, all that junk's just going to be gone. And you're going to live in perfect peace and harmony with the Creator God.
Amen.
And your fellow believers. And it's going to be joy. Okay? The outcome of hoping or trusting in the Lord is his granting and our receiving of a new strength. And it's not a strength that's yours. All that power that he said he had, he says, I'm going to give it to you. Wrap yourself up in me. Get twisted. Twist yourself up in him. Don't let your circumstances twist you in knots. Don't let them get the best of you. Get twisted up in him. And that word renew, that word, they will renew their strength. That's what it means. It means exchange. It's not just, I'm gonna let you recharge and you're good to go. No, it's, I'm taking your weak, pathetic strength and I'm replacing it with my all-powerful, sovereign God, creator of the universe, strength. That's why he could say, they will rise up on wings like eagles. You ain't got that. You ain't got that in you. But that's what he says, I want to give to you. Okay, next week, skip over treasuring who God treasures and go ahead and go to Psalm 25, the inspiration for our worship. All right, thank you guys. Have a great, great day. Remember, pray for one another and encourage one another every chance you get. Great to see all of you today. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, no problem.
Because you're down in...
Yeah, I knew it.